My name is Farhana, and by profession I am a lawyer. I am 28 years old and I am a widow. It has been 1 year since my husband passed away. He died in a plane crash. After my husband's death, I was completely shattered because he loved me very much. After he left, my life became empty and lonely. But as they say, there is no greater healer than time. Slowly, without me even realizing it, life returned to normal. My daily routine had made me forget all my sorrows. I would spend the day in my chamber, and the night immersed in studying my cases. I was a very beautiful woman. I used to enjoy life fully with my husband, but now that he was gone, I kept myself busy with my routine life. Another year passed and I had become like a machine. My emotions and feelings had faded so much that nothing seemed to affect me anymore. After my husband's death, I had shifted back to my parents' house. They tried in every possible way to console and support me, but I remained unchanged. At last, they said, "Daughter, you are still young. You should get married again." Hearing this, I was startled and said, "No, I don't want to get married again. I am happy in this life." They fell silent. My routine continued as usual. But one day, someone came into my life and changed everything completely. It happened like this. I was in my chamber working on my daily tasks when 5 people entered. 3 were elderly men. One was a man around 40-45 years old, and the 5th was a young man who seemed about 24-25 years old. He was tall and quite handsome. When they entered and looked at me, I gestured for them to sit. They sat on the chairs in front of my table, and I asked professionally, "Yes, tell me, what is the issue?" One of the elderly men cleared his throat and said, "The thing is, Madam Lawyer, this boy," pointing toward the young man, "has been accused of entering a girl's house for her sake." Then he explained the details, who the girl was, who filed the case, how he allegedly entered the house, and how he got bail. I looked closely at the boy. He seemed innocent, but I knew men's nature very well. I said, "I am willing to fight his case. Bring me his bail file and the case file." Once everything was clear, I told them to step outside for a while because I wanted to speak to the boy alone. They left, and now only he and I were in the room. I looked into his eyes and asked, "So, Mr. Shahid, tell me, why did you go to that innocent girl's house?" He was completely unprepared for this sudden and harsh question. Startled, he said nervously, "No, madam, I didn't go. She accused me falsely." I got up from my revolving chair, stood in front of him, and said, "Look, Mr. Shahid, tell me now whether you went there or not. Otherwise, I will find out later, and it will be difficult for you." He stayed quiet for some time, then nodded his head in confession. I asked him to tell me the truth in detail. He began explaining. "It happened 2 weeks ago. One of my classmates, Sarah, whom I liked, one night I went to her house. We were talking lovingly when her family arrived suddenly. They caught me and had me put in lockup, but I got out on bail." He fell silent after saying this. After going through the files, it seemed like the chances of saving him were very low. All the evidence was against him. Thinking all this, I allowed him to leave. When he shook my hand before leaving, something strange happened. After so long, someone had touched my hand, and I suddenly felt alive again. I felt young and full once more. He left, and I got busy with my work. In the evening, I took the case files and went home. I ate food and lay down for a little rest. Later, I went to my study room to read the files. While reading, suddenly Shahid's file came before me. His handsome face flashed before my eyes, and I drifted into thoughts of him. After a while, I left the files and went back to my room, where I opened my memory box and started recalling my old memories. A whole film played in my mind. Scenes from university. My marriage, I went back 5 years. I was doing my LLM from Punjab University, Lahore. I held a special place in the law department because I was very beautiful and modern. Many girls in the university were friends with me. They respected me a lot. I was the only girl who had seen love for herself in the eyes of many boys. With my beauty and charm, I had captivated many of them. During my final year, I became friends with a girl from the business department named Nahida. She was very cheerful and never got tired of talking. One day I went to the canteen and found Nahida chatting with a boy. I walked towards them. Seeing me, Nahida's face lit up with joy. She seated me next to her and introduced me to that boy, saying, "This is my very good friend Farhana." Before she could say more, that stranger boy cut in playfully and smiled. I was surprised, and so was Nahida, because I had never seen him before, nor had she introduced me to him earlier. Nahida quickly said, "Shahzaib, how do you know her name?" He smiled and said, "You spend all day in front of me praising a beautiful girl. This lady perfectly matches that description. Seeing the happiness on your face when she approached, I immediately guessed she must be Farhana." I was impressed by his intelligence and wit. He looked at me in a strange way, and unknowingly I grew closer to him. Shahzaib was doing his MBA. His father had his own business. We completed our education together. I started practicing under a senior lawyer at the Lahore High Court. But my meetings with Shahzaib continued with the same intensity. We fell deeply in love. And eventually, the time came when Farhana became Farhana Shahzaib. The beautiful word Zeb was added to my name. Our wedding was grand, full of joy and celebration. My university friends and his friends filled the event with unforgettable happiness. A girl's wedding day is the most beautiful moment of her life, when she leaves her home to start a new life with her beloved. Finally, the moment came when I sat beautifully adorned in our room, waiting for him. After some time, he entered. I quickly covered my face and sat upright. He sat beside me and gently lifted my veil. For some reason, I felt shy, even though he was the same person I would talk to for hours. He took a velvet box from his pocket, removed a beautiful ring, placed it on my finger, and said, "My love, this may not be worthy of you, but keep it as a symbol of my true and sincere feelings." I kissed the ring and said, "This is everything to me." We spent the night talking lovingly. Then and thereafter, we couldn't stay away from each other even for a moment. When he was at the office, I would call him often and ask him to come home soon. When it was time for him to return, I would dress up beautifully to welcome him. Our love kept growing with each passing day. He would often say, "My love, I consider you not just my wife but my beloved." I would smile and blush. 2 years passed like this, and then he left this world with countless dreams in his heart. He had left for a business meeting in Dubai that evening. He met me lovingly before leaving and said, "Begum, I am going to Dubai for 4 days." He got ready and left. I got busy with my work. After about an hour, someone called saying the plane going to Dubai had crashed and all passengers had died, including my husband. Hearing this felt like doomsday had struck. Without him, the big house felt deserted. Loneliness consumed me. I moved back to my parents' house and immersed myself in work, thinking it would distract me. But it was just my illusion. He was a memory that could never be erased. And today, the boy whose case I had decided to fight looked exactly like my late husband. Those bright eyes reminded me of him. That was the only reason I felt compelled to take his case. I don't know when I fell asleep that night. In the morning, I woke up late. I made breakfast myself because my mother and brother had gone to another city. I got ready for the chamber, more carefully than usual, wearing a red suit that suited me well. I applied lipstick and perfume and went to work. I handed my legal documents to my clerk, who submitted them to the judge. After finishing some small tasks, I rested in my chair and closed my eyes, thinking about Shahid. His case was very weak. All witnesses and evidence were against him. There seemed to be no hope. The hearing was scheduled for 15 days later. As I was thinking, I heard a knock. I said, "Come in." Seeing the person who entered, my heart fluttered. It was Shahid, looking extremely handsome in black jeans and a blue shirt. He greeted me. I replied and gestured for him to sit. He sat with visible worry on his face. He said, "Ma'am, you messaged me. Is everything okay?" I cleared my throat and said, "Mr. Shahid, I regret to inform you that I cannot delay your case for long. Sarah's family caught you red-handed. No argument can counter that point." His expression changed with worry. Even in the air-conditioned room, sweat appeared on his forehead. In a trembling voice, he asked, "Is there no way out?" I shook my head and said, "No, nothing can save you." He lowered his head and remained silent. I could feel his distress. I broke the silence and said, "Mr. Shahid, actions have consequences. You must bear the punishment for what you've done." He said softly, "Madam, I am very ashamed of what I did. I promise I will never do such a thing again." His voice trembled and then faded. I sighed deeply and said, "Mr. Shahid, youth is cruel, but its consequences can be worse. Don't lose hope. There is no problem in this world without a solution. I paused, creating suspense. He looked at me in surprise, confused because moments earlier I had told him there was no hope. Smiling, I continued, there is one way a bit risky, but it can increase your chances of freedom. I explained everything in detail. He listened carefully. After finishing, I told him to leave and complete the tasks quickly. He stood up and, overwhelmed with emotion, said, "Ma'am, you are great." He took my hand, kissed it, and left happily. The next day he returned, his face glowing. He said, "Ma'am, one thing is done. The second is a bit serious, but that will also be done soon." I smiled. I told him I was going home as I had some work. We left together, talking until we reached the road. My house was nearby, so I didn't bring my car. I usually took a rickshaw home. I looked around for one when Shahid appeared in front of me on his heavy bike and said, "Ma'am, I'll drop you." I hesitated for a moment, then sat behind him. He drove off, and I had my hand on his waist. As we turned into my street, his bike collided with a car. I was thrown off and fell far away. My feet were badly crushed. Shahid wasn't hurt much because the speed was low. He quickly took me to a hospital and brought me home after first aid. I leaned on him for support as we entered my house. Inside, he asked, "Which room should I take you to?" I guided him upstairs to my room. He seated me gently on my bed and sat in the chair in front of me, looking embarrassed. He said, "I'm very sorry. I couldn't bring you home safely, and because of my mistake, you got injured." I said, "Where was your attention?" Hearing my harsh question, he froze. His face turned red. I already knew the reason. I could see the answer in his eyes. He stared at me silently. I suddenly burst into laughter. He thought the injury had made me lose my mind. He watched my reactions closely. After a while, I stopped laughing and looked at him with intense eyes. He held my gaze for a few moments, then looked down. I said, "Shahid, come here." He looked at me instantly, but didn't get up from the chair. I didn't say anything else. I simply moved my finger, beckoning him to come closer. Slowly, he stood up and walked toward me.